This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by Greenworks Consults, a company run by a longtime listener to the show, Jason, who's an expert when it comes to helping businesses get better at doing business. Learn more about what Greenworks Consults is up to and how they can help you make more money over at greenworksconsults.com, with works spelled W-O-R-X. That's greenworksconsults.com. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020, and you're tuned in to episode 896 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. We lead off the day's news in the world of sport, where yesterday Dan Halem, Deputy Commissioner of Major League Baseball, sent a memo around to the league's players concerning a number of marijuana-related issues, chief among them a warning not to show up to games or practices after consuming cannabis. Major League Baseball recently made big changes to their policy over drug testing by removing cannabis from the list of substances tested for. But in the Deputy Commissioner's memo, he stresses that that does not mean that players can roll up to work while high. The memo also makes clear that professional baseball players, for now at least, are not allowed to personally invest in legal marijuana businesses, something we've seen in other sports like basketball. The league is looking into that issue further, but for now, do not expect to see any pro baseball players getting involved with new cannabis startups or brands. And lastly, the cannabis memo warns team doctors that they should refrain entirely from recommending medical cannabis to players, even in states where it's legal. Marijuana legalization activists in Ohio have begun work to bring an adult use ballot measure before voters in the fall, as the Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol campaign kicked off yesterday by submitting a petition to the state's attorney general, who has 10 days to certify the ballot measure's language. As Kyle Yeager over Marijuana Moments has it, this one seems a tough hill to climb, as there are less than 4 months left for activists to gather more than 440,000 valid signatures ahead of the July 1st deadline. You can pop over to Kyle's story for more on this and to read the full text of the proposed measure yourself. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com. Deborah Borchardt over at Green Market Report brings home today's final top story with a look at the recent financial report issued by Canadian marijuana giant Tilray, which saw for the fourth quarter ending December 31st a correspondingly giant net loss of $219 million. That figure came alongside $46.8 million in revenue and helped drive down Tilray's stock as much as 10% on the day. Deborah's piece has all the other stocky numbers here if you need them. Tilray's press release on this points out that the amount of cannabis sold by the company in the reported quarter was up 700% from the same quarter last year at 33,153 pounds versus last year's 4,526 pounds. Tilray ended the year with just under $100 million in cash. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out in headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, Greenworks Consults, which is run by a longtime listener to the show, Jason, who's an expert when it comes to helping businesses get better at doing business. Every dollar that you waste during your business day is a dollar that isn't going towards furthering your business goals or going into your bank account. And the funny thing about operating inefficiencies is that they don't go away. So every month you get the same hit to your bank account again and again and again each month. Those dollars add up. By working with pros like Jason and his team at Greenworks Consults, you'll plug all of the operational leaks, draining away your money month to month. Greenworks Consults knows all the different ways that businesses can optimize their work to realize higher profits. If you like higher profits, get in touch with Jason and his team at Greenworks Consults, and they'll lead you to them. Learn more about all the things Greenworks Consults is capable of and get in touch over at greenworksconsults.com, with works spelled W-O-R-X. All right, time for the Blitz. We have an update out of Mexico as the nation's top lawmakers continue work on a draft bill to legalize adult use marijuana at the federal level. This long-running storyline revolves around a Supreme Court decision to make adult use cannabis legal that was originally set for last year, but that was later kicked to April. Kyle has another headline here with a good detailed outline of the story, as some activists are not happy about the lack of social equity provisions or any kind of support for smaller domestic cultivators. Even so, the bill, if signed into law by President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, does set up a taxed and regulated market with a 12% sales tax. Home grow would be allowed, though people would have to register their plants and would be barred from harvesting more than a pound of cannabis per year. Open up Kyle's piece for more here and for the full 228-page draft bill itself, though you're going to have a good handle on Spanish to read it. Tom Angel keeps the marijuana moment running as he checks in on Connecticut, where yesterday state lawmakers in the General Assembly's Judiciary Committee held a hearing to discuss a proposed marijuana legalization bill filed on behalf of Governor Ned Lamont. We've covered this one before, as the proposed measure would set up a taxed and regulated sales program backed by a 3% sales tax and a $1.25 gram retailer and manufacturer's tax. The legislation, SB 16, contains social equity provisions like records expungement and leaves certain questions like home grow up to regulators to hash out at a later time. Germany is not doing a very good job of tracking how much medical marijuana is being used by its registered medical marijuana patients. That news came out recently during parliamentary proceedings as government officials admitted that there are big holes in their understanding of how much medical marijuana has been used and how much the nation will need to import this year. Lots of background and context here. Pop over if the German market is at all on your industry radar. We turned up to my corner of the country here in Maine, where the state legislative committee that oversees the state's marijuana industry voted 7-3 in favor of a bill that would allow for the creation of an adult use marijuana delivery system, something not currently allowed by law. The passage of LD 1621 would not automatically allow for delivery, as Penelope Overton at the Portland Press Herald explains that regulators at the Maine Office of Marijuana Policy would rather take it slowly when it comes to allowing for delivery. The last 9 months or so have not been the best of times for large legal marijuana deal makers, as the public markets have pulled back from their previously exuberant moods, sending the stock price of just about every company in the legal cannabis sector on a downward trend, which also killed the environment for big funding and acquisition deals to happen. But Alicia Wallace over at CNN notes that things could be starting to turn around, as some indicators show an uptick in the amount of mergers, acquisitions, and investments. One of the more interesting stats finds that in the first 8 weeks of this year, $1.4 billion in debt or equity funding was raised by 44 public companies versus the $720 million raised in the same period last year by the same number of companies. Give this one a read. Sam Wood over at the Philadelphia Inquirer has a good pickup of a new business entity just formed in the industrial hemp space that features some of the more well-known names in our industry. Chief among them, former Cannabis Growth CEO Bruce Linton, who is joining with Pennsylvania-based hemp entrepreneur Jeff Whaling and former Cannabis Growth CFO and Executive Vice President Tim Saunders to launch the hemp company Collective Growth. The trio say they've received preliminary approval to raise $150 million in an IPO to come later this month and will use the funds to build out infrastructure to decorticate industrial hemp, a necessary process for turning raw hemp crops into usable fibers and other materials. And finally for today, we have a good update to a storyline we touched on recently in Florida, as a proposed measure to install a cap on the amount of THC that can be found in medical marijuana products for people under the age of 21 appears to be dead in the legislative waters. The proposed 10% THC cap on medical cannabis was originally pitched for the entire industry, but was then narrowed to target only those patients under the age of 21. Thankfully, according to Florida Politics, lawmakers just tabled the restriction, and given that their session wraps up on March 13th, it seems unlikely to crawl back to life. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, Greenworks Consult, and to our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today.
One take, Shay. One take.